everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What is up, you ducks? It is round 2 of All in Football on the FTN Network. Trying to do some rookie, wide receiver talk, fits, all that type of stuff. With Chris Meaney this time, since Jeff's Mac is up in the Apple Store in the sky, as that's where it is right now.
Jeez, done, dead.
Done for. Code all in over at FTN, get you 20% off. You can check out Meaney especially. How many more days do we have left in the NHL season, by the way, Chris?
Just maybe 9. I think the season wraps up next Sunday. We're just about a week away from it all being over.
And I buried a small lead with Chris Meaney. Championship winning Chris Meaney, right?
Oh, yes.
Back-to-back trophies, right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, beer league hockey. Yeah, we had a good time the other night on Tuesday. We went back-to-back, played the same team that we played last year. It was actually 3 years in a row we played that team, but for me, I just moved home a couple years ago, so... feeling pretty good here today. It was rough the other day. We did celebrate pretty hard at my buddy's barn, not gonna lie, but we did have a pretty good time. So appreciate you mentioning that.
No, well, the reason I mentioned it is because I saw it and I first was like, wait, is he celebrating a fantasy hockey title? And then the season ended. I didn't realize it. That's why. So as you can see, which by the way, for the poker theme, can you see I got my Gambit as a poker card? This is
fantastic.
Like, yes.
I actually dropped the ball. There was a really cool, since we were on hockey for a second, there's a really cool shirt that my buddy bought when we went to Vegas for my friend's bachelor party. It was Jack Hughes, just like the Jack. And it was, it had his long kind of dreads and his number on there. It was just, it was really, really cool. And I saw him buy it and he showed me after. I just when we left, just with a few people, didn't get to hit up the gift shop, and then we left, and he's like, oh, look what I bought. You'd appreciate this. I'm like, why didn't you buy 2? Yes, I would appreciate it. I would love to have that shirt.
I missed out on it. You search it online and Google it?
I did. I couldn't find it, but I'm sure I'll head back to Vegas sometime.
Yeah, maybe your buddy needs to actually just give you his since he left. I mean, that's a crappy friend, I'm just saying right now. But, hey, good friend Jiggles. He missed the show yesterday because he had a work conflict, but he's here today, so that works out. Real quick. Before we get into the rookies, which I do want to talk, we're going to talk wide receivers. We're going to super in depth. The draft is next week at this point. We're actually legitimately a week away today.
Yeah.
Before we go, we're going to go into that a little bit, but I will bring in some bets. We're going to just casually talk that with Chris. And then the top that I wanted to see is, did you see 2 things here, Chris? See, look, I'm still in my brain from yesterday. So the Apple TV, my first question is, have you watched the Major League Baseball broadcast on Apple TV on Friday night? Have you watched that yet?
I have.
Did it work for you?
It did not.
Okay. So
it did not. But I don't have Apple TV. I have IPTV, and I was streaming on this app called Typhoon Labs. But everything I've heard from people,
on the Apple app?
It wasn't actually on the Apple app. But I've heard from people that it didn't work for them even on that app.
I was wondering if it was just me. And when I tweeted about it on Friday night, legitimately within 5 minutes, 5 responses, like same thing, crashed, getting the error. And I had to keep reloading and reloading and reloading and reloading and reloading. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is going to be a forecast of the NFL season, I'm praying. Like, I want them to get away from DirecTV just because so we can have more options. Like, if DirecTV keeps it, I actually think that's better because we can push the package down in price because more competitors, hope. But if Apple outright buys it, so far, not looking good. The second part about it, I don't know if you saw in the rumors with like Amazon still involved and everything like that. There's also talks for Pat McAfee to do coverage. Are you thumbs up or thumbs on that? Because I feel like I just this is why it made me think of it, because I feel like I'm the odd man out here in the fact that I don't hate Pat McAfee. Mm-hmm. I've had enough of him. Like, he was never like, I was never like, if you said like a 1 to 10 scale, I'm a 5. Like, I could listen to him, sure. I also watch SmackDown, so I get an extra dose of him. But, I listen to him. He's entertaining. I think he's a little too much at times. I think he's like, whatever. I get enough. I don't need more. And when I saw that he's doing it, I'm almost said like, no, I don't want another night of Pat McAfee.
I'm kind of with you. Yeah, I think I was going to ask you if it had anything to do with Aaron Rodgers, because it's like when Aaron Rodgers is always on there, to me, like those episodes, I'd always roll my eyes and Rodgers getting his platform and yada yada. He's going to talk. Those are the episodes I was like, but I don't mind him. Like he's got some pretty good hockey guests on that work that former players, and I do like those stories that he has on. But yeah, I'm not with everybody else. It seems to be maybe you and I are just on our own island, but it seems like a lot of people are really, huge McAfee's fans.
Need more and more and more? I don't get it. So, in any case, all right. So we didn't get to needs when I did the show with you. We didn't get to wide receivers. So this works out well because we'll talk to it. We're not going to go super deep at wide receivers for the talent pool. As I mentioned before, if you go to theathletic.com, all capitals, bets TV after the / you get a first free month, so you can read the article. Nice. Hey, you waited till right now. And if you do the first free month, you're also going to get my live Thursday night reactions for skill players, live Friday night, and then little bursts on Saturday. And then post-draft, what do? Or new rankings, Chris. Yeah. New seasonal and Dynasty, so that'll all be there. But let me ask you right off the top, I'm going to say no need teams and see if you disagree with any of these, because and don't say disagree because you think they might draft. Every team in the NFL at this point, this is what I said to Jeff yesterday. I started this off by saying before his computer broke, I said, it feels like every team's going to draft a wide receiver. Like, that's just where we are in the NFL now. Yeah. Maybe if a team or two doesn't. But these, to me, feel like they don't need to. Like, these are the ones. Carolina, you got Terrace Marshall as the 3. Cincinnati, obviously. I think Cincinnati's definitely... Unless they're just thinking, we don't want to bring T. Higgins on a new contract and we're just going to start with the next guy. Maybe. Denver, obviously not now. They just re-signed Sutton and Patrick, and they have Judy still, who's, by the way, super. People don't realize how young Judy still is. The Rams, I put there. With or without Odell Beckham, I put there. Miami, now that they traded for Tyreek Hill with Jalen Waddle. Seattle, unless they trade DK, which I don't think is going to happen. That one you might have a pause on. I see you already thinking about that one. San Francisco, but we have this Debo rumor now, but they said they're not trading him. And then Tampa Bay. Those are the teams I don't think need to draft a wide receiver at all. Do you think any of them might dip their toe in?
Yeah, just maybe Seattle, but it would just be because of the DK thing, right? Like they've just shipped off so many guys lately that maybe they're just going to full on rebuild. And last year, they had 3 picks. Last year, they had 3 picks, and I think one of them they spent on a wide receiver. He's kind of escaping my name. He hardly played.
Dwayne Eskridge.
Was it Eskridge?
Or D. Eskridge, whichever one he wants to go by. I don't even, it seems like changed by the week. Sites keep changing his name with D. Eskridge and Dwayne Eskridge, and like pick a name.
It's hard to keep up when sites are changing names like that. It confuses you pretty easily. I'd say that's the only one. You know, if San Fran does decide that they want to, trade Debo, if that does happen, I'd love to get your thoughts too. I feel like it's, I know it's a little sidetrack here, but I feel like, I don't know if Debo wants to be used how he was used last year. I don't know if wide receivers.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. So you agree with me. And this is something that I thought about last year too. And there was that playoff game against the Packers where they weren't really doing a whole lot on offense. And you could see them on the sidelines, like, get me the ball, whether it's out of the backfield or whatever. And I'm sure every wide receiver, right? They want the football. But do they want the football out of the backfield 7 or 8 times a game? Do they want to be smacked like that nonstop, like treated like a running back? His body, the guy was like, he went through so much last year. He was phenomenal as a rusher, runner. He had more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns. He was great. But does he want to be used that way? And teams that are inquiring about him, do they want to use him that way too? Everyone's looking at the draft. Who's the next Debo Samuel? I don't know, man. I think he's just kind of like an outlier. And the way that he was used was kind of Shanahan. I feel like he wants out because of how they used him.
Well, and I'm with you. So let's look at the big contracts. So Devonte Adams touched the ball 123 times. Tyreek Hill touched the ball 120 times. Stephon Diggs on his contract that recently got 103 times. Debo Samuel, even with only 77 receptions, touched the ball 166 times.
Wow.
Or sorry, 136 times. Well, that's 136 times. And that's 77 receptions. That could easily go back up. And that's only 16 games also because that's why also so that's what I said yesterday. And I said that to Jeff, and it's like, Debo's looking at these contracts. It's like, hey, you're going to pay me $30 million a year, and I only have to touch the ball 6-7 times a game. Do I want do I want $30 million a year for $150 million? Do I want touching the ball 15 times a game? And if I'm Debo, I'm thinking the same thing. I want the longevity of my career. I don't want to get smacked. Essentially, you can do half the work and get paid the same.
Yeah. I mean, I saw all the hits that he took last year. I mean, he was an absolute beast, but there were so many times when he was on the sidelines just like absolutely hurting. So all those hits you take is, if he wanted to be a running back, he'd be a running back. He still can be used that way. And I'm sure maybe and again, I'm just speculating. You seem to agree. I'm sure that they've had conversations, inside the locker room of his usage and maybe moving forward. Like, yeah, if you want to use me on some end arounds, you want to use me in the red zone, rushing here and there, 4th and 1, those little things you want to use me, sure. But I don't think I want to take those kind of hits, and that's kind of where I'm at with him. Plus, you just mentioned the wide receivers. The wide receiver market it's crazy right now. So that's why I think a lot of those teams that you just mentioned, sure, I agree with you. I think all of them are probably out for a wide receiver unless Debo's traded, DK's traded. But they could still draft wide receivers knowing that these other guys in their team could get a Christian Kirk-like contract or want a Christian Kirk-like contract.
And that's why I threw in Cincinnati. Like, for all intents and purposes, there's no reason Cincinnati. But maybe they're like, well, screw this. We're not going to go paying T. Higgins $27 a year.
And then we got to pay Chase more than that, probably. Right. That's a lot of money, man, on 2 players. Maybe.
And so I went to you mentioned it. I went back to last year, or I guess 2 years ago now. And that is still last season, whatever it might be. Curtis Samuel 41 times ran the ball. He was the second most. You don't really include Cordell Patterson, so he was the most for a wide receiver. Also, lots of injuries already. And then you have Robert Woods with 24 carries, also dealing with injuries. So. We talk about why running backs in Dynasty for fantasy purposes aren't great investments, especially once you get to 26, 27 years old, because of the amount of touches. And the more times you touch the ball, the more likely you are to get hurt. That's just how things 100%. Happen. You're increasing your opportunities. So I said the exact same thing yesterday. I think San Francisco's smart, and they're going to dig their heels. Screw you. We're not going to trade you. But maybe it's a Kyler Murray type situation that works out. All right, so...
They got dudes to sign too, man. They got Bosa to sign. Like, they may not have that kind of cash. They made Kittle the highest paid tight end a couple years ago. Fred Warner the highest paid linebacker a couple years ago. What are they going to make Debo? Are they going to top Debo? Are they going to top Adams? Probably not, but I don't think they can afford that. Bosa's going to get paid too, man. Like, you got to make some decisions if you're the Niners. You want to keep them. You don't want to just give them away, but maybe, maybe they just run them into the ground again. Oh, my goodness.
You could do what 31 out of 32 teams know and that the Cowboys don't. Just manipulate the cap. Turn all these things into bonuses and stuff. The Cowboys are the only team that's like, you have the richest owner in all sports, and you're like, hey, all these teams are like turning things. All of a sudden, like, if you look at it, I mean, if you go down and look at the salary caps, how many teams are actually, if you take the raw numbers, $40 million over the cap, and it's because you turn into bonuses and stuff like that. Obviously, you can go so far with the Dave Gettleman situation, and you completely hamstring the team because depending on where they are in their years, you can't do so much. But anyway, point being aside, and that's why Denver's super smart. Everybody's like, what the hell are they doing with Sutton and Tim Patrick? They've signed him. They're like, hey, we're going to get deals on these guys.
I think good contracts. Yeah, I think those are good contracts, man. Like Sutton, I'm going to be really into Sutton this year. I think he's the guy for me. Although I really like Judy as a player too, and Tim Patrick's like just you'd throw it up to him. Like he wins a lot of those one-on-one contested catches. I feel like he could be a weapon inside the red zone. But Sutton is a guy that I've heard you say it so many times actually about his ADOT and like uncatchable balls that were like. He had a high ADOT and he hardly caught those balls, but look who was throwing it and who has one of the better deep ball passes in the NFL. We know who it is. It's Russell Wilson. So, yeah, those contracts, I think they look pretty good. They were good buy lows.
Here's an interesting one. Just going to throw it out for a Dynasty purpose, a random question for you. Would you rather, going forward in Dynasty, Judy on the same team? I don't know why I said Judy like that, but would you rather have Judy? Would you rather have Jerry Judy or Kenny Golladay going forward?
Oh, I'd rather have Judy. Kenny Golladay, no chance. I don't want anything to do with that guy.
By quite a mile, right?
Yeah. It's not even close for me. Unfortunately for Kenny, I just don't think he's healthy. Last year was a bit of the offense.
I also don't think he fits Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I remember you saying that as well this time last year. The offense probably be a little bit better there, certainly with Dayball going in there, but I just don't think Kenny's healthy. I didn't like the contract at the time. Did he even score a touchdown last year? No, I don't think he scored one.
Did he score
0?
One? He was hurt so much.
0, dude. He was hurt, no separation, doesn't play to the strengths with Jones, like he said. He's another kind of contested catch guy. Yeah. Ugh. I wouldn't want him. I remember people offering him to me last year for Allen Robinson, who wasn't doing anything either. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep Allen Robinson. And now I'm thrilled with his landing spot in LA.
I'm surprised. It seems that people either love it or hate it with Allen, or not hate it, but just completely. 521 yards, zero touchdowns.
And I don't know if he scored the year before that either. Sure he did.
Well, he was out for most of that year.
Yeah. I think a whole calendar year he did not have a touchdown.
And that's probably what it was. Yeah.
Which I guess really isn't something to say in the NFL because Detroit wasn't playing playoffs. They weren't playing the playoffs in January, right? So whatever.
Still true.
Yeah.
At any point, your point remains. All right. So I have very likely teams. We'll skip past the possibilities because, again, essentially all 32 teams are possibilities. So
yeah.
I'm going to kind of go a slower speed than I normally talk, but these are the teams that I think are very likely to draft a wide receiver. And when I say very likely, that means I think they get involved in days 1 and 2, as in first, second, third round. Tell me if you disagree, anybody you think should be here, anybody should be kicked out. So here we go. Think Arizona. You agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Atlanta 100%.
Chicago. Darnell Mooney's their number 1 right now.
Yeah, with Robinson gone. Yep.
Cleveland, even with Amari Cooper.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Is Landry on a team? He's not signed anywhere.
No,
right?
he said at this point, he already said he's going to wait until after the draft.
After the draft.
Which makes sense. I always said free agency should be after the draft anyway, like every other sport.
Totally agree. 100%.
It's every other sport except for football.
It doesn't really make any sense. I mean, even for the player and the organization, if like a certain couple of wide receivers fall to you that you like on your board, like for example, maybe Jacksonville, like they could go that route instead of, oh, wow, we spent all this money on Christian Kirk. And then, after the draft, you have yourself a couple wide receivers. You're not really involved with him. I think it's beneficial for some of the players to get paid.
Yes.
But the situation does change quite significantly after the draft.
I actually think
guys
the
can
best
fall down.
I think the best position is probably is quarterbacks, because you could be in the draft and then like, oh, Desmond Ridder slides there, and all of a sudden Atlanta's like in the second round, oh, we forget Mariota, we'll just take Desmond Ridder, and then Mariota doesn't get his contract. But overall, still just makes so much more sense. Green Bay, if Green Bay doesn't take a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, I'll even give them the second round. I'll even give them a pass for the first round.
Yeah,
if they don't take a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, like, do we just fire the entire front office?
They're trolling us. They would be completely trolling us if they don't take a wide receiver in this year's draft after losing Devonte Adams. MVS is gone too, or I know he went to KC. Like, I don't know. Did he sign at KC? He signed at KC. They have to. I think they get it done in the first round too. I think they do.
Houston, I have on here because they have Brandon Cooks. Nico Collins basically lost his rookie season for all intents and purposes. I have the Colts in here.
Yeah.
You think they do first 2 days? Okay.
I could see them doing first 2 days. Yeah, they need to, right? Ty doesn't have it. Paris Hilton. These guys are Campbell. They're not. They're hurt. They need to do it. Get it done. Get a wide receiver in there.
Chiefs. No, they have no Tyreek Hill. Even though they have Juju and
I could
MVS.
see the Chiefs. Yeah, maybe not day 1, but day 2. I could see day 2. Like they got those back to back now, right?
Yeah.
They may do one on that second pick. They definitely need wide receiver.
Yeah. The Saints.
Oh yeah,
Michael Thomas. Yeah, they're convinced. I jokingly said this to Jeff yesterday. They've convinced that they're contenders, and I said, although after you get past the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC, I can't argue against them being a contender.
You're not wrong. Yeah, they are a contender to make
gross.
the playoffs. Yeah, as an Eagles guy, I hope that they have an awful season as they traded their first round pick. But they're going to be right in that spot where a lot of those wide receivers might go, or in those high teens. They could maybe take a quarterback, but they definitely need a wide receiver. No question.
We're kind of on the same page differently. So you're saying that because they already traded the pick. I'm going with the direction that I hope they take one of their first 2 rounders, trade up to the Giants, number 5, to take Malik Willis, and give him a first rounder for next year, and then also root for you to stink because benefit everybody over here except for the Saints. We're all good.
I agree. Get behind that.
Your Eagles. I think your Eagles. Okay.
100%.
Pittsburgh. I included Pittsburgh. I don't think they're enamored with Chase Claypool. I think Claypool is best as a 3, and I think we saw enough of that last year that they do it in the first 3 rounds.
I agree with your take on Claypool as a 3. Juju's gone. Who's gonna play in the slot? Ray?
Maybe they get.
I can see them.
Maybe they get to the 4th round. James Washington's not even on the team anymore.
No.
So
I could see them. I could see them
Washington.
taking a wide receiver, 100% too. I think that they do in the first round.
I can see
I'm
it
a little
too.
unsold on them. I could see maybe a QB. Like Wentz is there, but this is it for Wentz. It really is it for Wentz. Like the 1 year and that's it. Clearly, he's not going to be the quarterback of the future there. So I could see them maybe doing QB first round, but 100% get some more weapons offensively so you can compete. The defense defense took a step back last year, but I still think that they're pretty good overall when they're healthy. Get another weapon alongside Terry McLaurin. We didn't even see Curtis Samuel really, but get another weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Terry McLaurin would be better served as a 1B to a 1A, having somebody alongside his talent of his level. It's funny you said 100%. So I was talking to my buddy, random sidebar, talking to my buddy Ernest, who works for the DoD, and he's in South Africa. That's where he's deployed. He does like 2 and 3 year stretches in different places. Anyway, so I recently was catching up with him, and I said 100% like 2 or 3 times. He goes, "Did you just recently start saying that?" And I thought he was mocking me for how much I said it. And I was like, no, I think I've pretty much always, it just kind of comes naturally, especially in our business, because, we use 100. And he goes, oh, because I noticed when I moved here, it's very common, like they say 100% mate. Like instead of saying guaranteed, that's their phrasing for like, so they're like, hey, I need this job done. Well, I have it done by Friday. 100% mate. Like that kind of stuff. So I just thought that was funny. Like, so apparently it's 100% is a very common cliche phrase in South.
I feel like
South
I
Africa.
say it a lot. I actually think since Game
he's
Plus
out
is on
Johannesburg. That's where he is outside of there, in that area.
What an experience, right? I feel like since since this show is on Game Plus at Anthem Sports Entertainment, for those who may be watching the control room or editing the show, McCormick, Hundo P, Tyler Thompson was a guy that used to work in the office.
Hundo P.
And he would say it all the time, like Hundo P, buds, like Hundo P, all the time. And then I would start saying Hundo, and I'm seeing someone totally say that a lot, 100. It just easily catches on, 100%. But I do believe the Eagles 100% will take a wide receiver in this draft. I don't know if it'll be the first round. I want it to be. But they do have some holes too defensively. I'd like to see them get
which
younger.
is perfect because this is where I'm going next. So we're not going to debate too much on this. A lot of it's going to come to this is why to hammer it down for like probably the 6th time I've said it, maybe even more. I do tiers because Lanny's positions are going to change things. It's going to depend on I even refs that I could sit here and tell you till I'm blue in the face that I like London better than Treylon Burks. But if Treylon Burks ends up with the Eagles and London gets buried on Seattle as the 3 for future planning, he's still buried. He's behind Lockett and Metcalf. So like that's what I'm saying. So, but that aside, Chris, because we're going to touch on a few of these teams. The Eagles are one of the clear. Like I think these very likely. There's about 3 or 4 teams that are like there's no way they don't. Eagles are one of them. Is there somebody from London, Wilson, Olave, Williams, and you can even include Burks? Is there somebody from that group that you think is the best fit? Because I think Jameson Williams is a better player than Devonte Smith, his former teammate in college, but I don't think that's the best fit because there are a lot of similarities. I think they need that Alshon Jeffrey they used to have. I think they need a London. I think Olave doesn't make a ton of sense for what they have. I think Wilson maybe, but I'm not even, again, the biggest Burks guy, but I think London and Burks make more sense than Williams and Olave do.
Yeah, you and I are no surprise we're on the same page here. My favorite wide receiver in the draft is Williams, and I understand that it's going to be some time. I think he's a stud. I agree. I think he's better than Smith. It may not be the best landing spot for him from a Philly standpoint, from him, with the way that the Eagles played last year and ran the ball so much and Jalen Hurts, but I really like him as a talent, and I would be fine if they took him and just gave him the year. Like this is not a Super Bowl contending team, anyways. But I do believe that the best fit is London, for what you said. Just the size that he has, the hands that he has. I don't want to get into his combine. Like, what are we talking about? Speed? So what? Jalen Reagor was fast. What has he done? Who cares?
The funny thing was there was a tweet a few weeks ago. And they tweeted the top 40 times, and then there was something else that was tied to it because it wasn't just 40 times. And there was 8 players, and only 3 of them have hit in the NFL. And like that's like, and I this is what I will go back to. Like it just that you're gonna make me go on a mini rant here because I'm tired of the. Well, no, because like it just okay. The whole thing about he ran a 4.4 versus a 4.6 40. You watch two players playing at the same time on the field, and you tell me which one's running the 4.4 and which one's running the 4.6. It's 0.2 of a seconds over the course of 40 yards.
Yeah.
And people like, and it's like, yeah, okay, they do the overlay at the combine. Okay, you see the overlay at the combine, and you see how the players at the end of the 40 yards are like this. It's not that big of a difference.
It's not at all.
I know there's some like if you want to talk about the concerns with Whittemire running a 5.0, okay. Sure, absolutely valid. If you want to put somebody on your radar because they ran a 4.3 and we thought their speed was a 4.6, okay, sure. But to nitpick, as you're like what we're saying here, and the biggest one is like, anyway, you got me on this little.
I got you
so
going.
Frustrated with it. Well, because Kyle Hamilton, he's a freak. He's Eric Berry. He's like every great safety in the history. He ran a 4.6. Oh, forget about him. He sucks. Like, just don't.
I know it's you. I know you hear it. You have to take it with a grain of salt.
Look at the play where Kyle Hamilton goes from the opposite hash to the sideline to intercept the ball against Florida State, and you tell me you're worried about him running a 4.6.
I know. I agree with you, man. We are lockstep, 100%. Do you remember a couple years ago, DK Metcalf? Like, he didn't have a great combine. The guy did what?
The
agility cones? His 3 cones suck. So many people are passing on this guy mid-second. There's so many wide receivers that, I don't know so many. I think there were a good 5 or 6 that went ahead of him. And DK Metcalf is an absolute specimen. Like, the guy is a freak of nature. I love London because I feel like Philly just needs a guy like that. They need a physical guy who's got good catch radius, who can just go up and get the ball, right? We've seen over the years, like this would be year 3 in a row for, them taking a first round wide receiver, but they just haven't been able to figure it out. Like Jordan Matthews, they passed on Devonte Adams and Lockett and Diggs. They passed on McLaurin. They passed on DK. They passed on Justin Jefferson. So many guys that they have passed on. I feel like they need to get this right. They need to get another weapon for Jalen Hurts alongside Smith. And I don't know what your comp is for London, but he reminds me a little bit like Mike. Yeah, I figured it would be. He reminds me a little bit of Mike Evans. Just big, physical, not a ton of speed, but can go up and make a play. And that's what Philly needs, right? They're not getting Jalen Reagor's time is done. Arcega-Whiteside, his time is done. They need a guy who can be a beast, and I hope it happens. But I don't know, man. I feel like he's the first wide receiver off the board, and I think he's going to be gone by the time Philly's there.
Here's a great one. You mentioned a name in there for everybody out there because he wasn't hugely. I was about to say hugely paid attention to, which is terrible grammar. So there wasn't garnering a lot of attention in the draft process at the time. Devonte Adams, you know what he ran?
Oh, I don't, but I know it wasn't great. 4.56, loser.
I know. Tell me where. Tell me how Darius Hayward-Bay and Darrell Green Beckham and tell me how they're doing in the NFL.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
How about John Ross? Injuries, sure, but still, even before the injuries.
But still, John Ross was like a 10th overall pick, was he not?
I know.
He was a first-round pick, I know that. And Jalen Reagor, where the Eagles clearly, they left that draft saying that they wanted to attack speed, and they felt like they had speedy guys. Like they drafted Reagor, they drafted Watkins. Like I don't actually mind Watkins, but he's just a kind of a gadget guy. He's not a true 2 or anything. But they left that draft looking for speed, and they passed on Justin Jefferson.
Hightower.
Get it right.
Hightower too.
Hightower's another guy. That same year, you're right. Speed. All they talked about was speed. They wanted speed. They wanted to be quicker.
They pulled the Raiders draft.
Yeah, they really did. I get it. Like Aguilar was dropping balls and Jeffrey had lost a step. I understand attacking the position, but it's not all about speed. To your point, you just brought up 2 or 3 names that didn't really make an impact in the NFL.
No, they didn't. And Green Beckham was a freak too. Like,
was he ever? He spent a minute in Philly too. Obviously, wasn't drafted by them, but I think they took him for agency.
So the other big obvious. Well, let's go to Green Bay real quick.
Yeah,
is it? Everybody is basically mocking and saying if Olave's there, it's the perfect option. Are you on board with that? You know what? I don't think Wilson's a bad one either. And I think London can play there, but I think everybody's looking at Alan Lazard and his size and his skill set, and they're looking for more of, we need the guy that Aaron Rodgers can trust, go back to the Randall Cobb days, but even a better version of that, a bigger version of that, and I think that's why everybody's on Olave. Would you say best of these 5 wide receivers, Olave would be your pick for Green Bay?
Yeah, I think so. Great route runner. He's got some speed. But I do think he would be a good fit. I think actually a lot of these guys, that could make a case for pretty much everyone that's in your tier 1. Yeah, to play with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, exactly, right? And to be, I mean, I whoever they take, and if it is going to be one of these guys in tier 1 for you and a first round pick, we really got to love their landing spot, because obviously there's no Adams, question marks at the tight end position, Lazard. This is probably going to be a team that runs the rock quite a bit, but somebody's got to catch the ball there. I've seen some mocks late with Dotson. I don't know how you feel. If he was there, would they take him, or would they say, you know what, maybe we'll wait till round 2. Maybe there's somebody else we like a little bit more. Maybe not more, but like maybe they don't feel like he should be pick 22, I think they have. So
yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I'm a Dotson fan. I like him, but he's in my tier 2 of wide receivers. So for real quick, I have a big tier of 2 too, because there's like so Burks is in tier 2 for me. For everybody that's like, I just, again, now you want to talk about not separating, but his issues go beyond that. And like, again, separation is somewhat, it's not completely subjective, obviously. It is, there's objectivity to it, but there is some subjectivity in like PFF grading. You know, PFF, I'm not taking a knock at PFF, but PFF's grades are people watching the game deciding if the block succeeded or not. They decide if the person is open or not, and they're doing it. It's not like he has a half of a yard of separation. That doesn't count. He has a yard of separation. Like, so it's, you know, so anyway, my tier 2 is Burks, Pickens. There you go, Albert. I love George Pickens. He looks like he's 100%. And oh my God, people don't realize that if he wasn't for the injury, we're talking about him potentially in tier 1.
Totally.
Dotson, Watson, Bell. I have some concerns about Bell. I keep going back and forth with him. Justin Ross, who I think if he's 100%, people forget about 2 years ago. Remember 2 years ago when it was like, oh, take Trevor Lawrence and then Justin Ross and just keep them together in the NFL, and like how great he was going to be.
Oh yeah.
Mechie. And then Skye Moore, which seems to be the fantasy. You know, every single year there seems to be like the one that's not on tier 1 that the fantasy community gets in love with. I feel like Skye Moore is that guy.
I'm seeing a lot of Skye Moore tweets lately, yeah, from a fantasy standpoint. You know, drafting now before the draft happens, like just rookie only drafts, and I'm seeing him go a little bit higher than some of the other names that you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with Skye Moore. We'll see the landing spot that, you know, he ends up in. I feel like Terrace Marshall was that guy last year, and then, you know, this didn't really work out for him. I'm sure we're going to get more playing time for him this year in year 2. I like Burks more than Dotson. I think Burks, I'm with you on him. Like, is he up at the top of your tier 2? Like, if you were to rank them, he'd be number.
If I had to, my tier 2 rankings go Burks, Pickens, then Dotson.
Okay. Yep.
And then Watson. Actually, I listed them in order. Then Bell, Ross, and Ross would be higher if not for the injury, especially because of the neck. Mechie, and then Skye Moore. So Skye Moore. So the thing that worries me, I don't know. Look, everybody's like great, like off the line and all this type of stuff. His routes are he's the Marquis Lee. I always bring Marquis Lee up every single year because he's just the epitome of this example. Is that not like Skye Moore, because Skye Moore wasn't that dominant as Marquis Lee was, but I always go back to Marquis Lee as a perfect example because he was so much better than everybody else that he ran lazy routes and lazy cuts. And when he got to the NFL, he didn't catch on immediately because he still played that style. When in the NFL now, everybody's almost as fast as you and everybody's as strong as you. And it's like, you saw Marquis Lee, I think it was year 3 or 4, where he finally started to break out in the NFL. Was because he had cleaned up his routes and he was starting to run more precise routes. He still wasn't exceptional, but so I'm a little hesitant on Skye Moore, but I can see like landing spot again is going to change a lot of this. That's why we're talking landing spot here. So here's my last question in this version. Atlanta and Kansas City. Here's how I'm going to phrase this question to you. Don't tell me who's the best fit. Don't tell me who you want to see there. And don't tell me who wouldn't be a bad fit. My question is fantasy, Chris. Soon as the NFL draft is over, are these 2 wide receivers going to be the most overrated wide receivers because Atlanta, who else is going to catch the ball, and Kansas City he's playing in Kansas City with Mahomes. Are these going to be the 2 most overrated? Like, are these the immediate sell highs in fantasy?
Yes, and more in particular KC. Just because everything is so magnified there with KC. No Tyreek Hill.
Mecole Hardman, man.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman. Oh, man, Mecole Hardman's awesome, right? Yeah, it would be, because of Patrick Mahomes, it certainly would be Kansas City. And I know everybody's going to say that with Atlanta, but the truth is, like, honestly, there really won't be a lot of guys there to catch the rock. But who's going to be throwing the football is a big thing, too. It's huge. So if it is Mariota, if it is him, or maybe they attack the quarterback position in the first round, and maybe just later on, they're definitely going to draft a wide receiver. Like, they have to, right? Because with Calvin Ridley, the guy's not going to play all year, and they lost Gage. So I think those would probably be the two spots. But I will say, we can say Green Bay, but I think we could feel better about that, no? Because of Rodgers.
Yeah.
And especially if they do take one in the first round.
There you go. So you just said it. I was going to say Green Bay, I think I can't see there being that much of a bust potential.
Right.
However, because these past 2 years, for all intents and purposes, we've been spoiled. Like, the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase are not the commonalities.
I know.
Even with those landing spots and even with those opportunities and being clearly one of the top two options and being that great talent, that's still not normal. Like, we had to go back years before that happened. Years and years and years. Like, I think Odell Beckham was in that the very first year with the Giants, and he wasn't even right out of the gate, if everybody remembers. Because
that's
also
a pretty good wide receiver class that year.
One was a really good. Yeah, that was a really good wide receiver class that year. So I'm saying to say I agree with you, and there's going to be a break point. Like, if Drake London wasn't the first wide, like, we're going to get to that in a second, so pause that thought. But let's say Drake London makes it to them. Hell, let's say any of the big four make it to them, including Olave.
Yeah,
I think you're going to have a potential sell high if people are expecting a wide receiver. If they're expecting a wide receiver 1 rookie value, I would sell. Now, I'm not talking Dynasty. I'm just talking about, like, right out of the gate for year 1. That kind of package, I would sell.
Yeah, and you know what? I may sell in Dynasty too, because let's be honest. I mean, Rodgers can say he wants to play till he's mid-40s, like Brady too, but who's the quarterback? Who's the quarterback at Green Bay next year? Maybe things just go absolutely AWOL for the Packers this year, and he's, you know what? Screw it. I'm not coming back, right? Can you imagine? The NFC is completely wide open. They're an absolute lock, I think, to make the playoffs as long as Rodgers stays 100% healthy. But if he's not the quarterback next year, Olave, I'm looking at Olave like, okay, I don't feel as great about him anymore, and you're not going to get the return with Jordan Love under center, but I do feel like he's the guy that I would like to see there. Just like his route running is so crisp, and with Rodgers so accurate, I think he'd just be a perfect fit for them.
I mean, well, yeah. What if Rodgers starts like growing a third bear arm out of his back from horse leg or something like that for like whatever.
Oh my god, I don't want to deal with another season of Rodgers drama.
He needs like blinders like a horse, and he can't even see anymore, and he's like. What is that? That's what he's taking, right? That's what it was, like horse trank. I don't know, whatever horse.
I don't know, dude. I think so. I think you're correct, but Rodgers is out there, man.
All right, so then let's tie in some quick. We'll just talk some if you want to bet. And your answer. I always say this for me. If your answer is I don't want to bet it, don't bet it.
Yeah, of course. You don't just bet for the sake of betting.
I'm gonna include everybody, but we'll go to wide receivers first. Wide receiver. And this ties into a question about the draft in general. So we see this every single year. Late NFL draft buzz. Mm-hmm. Nobody has more late NFL draft, and not just like the Skye Moore for fantasy purposes. Real life NFL draft buzz than Jameson Williams. There is now talk he's the first one off the board. There's now talk you're going to have to jump into the top 10 to get him if you want him, depending on who wants to take him. There's talk that Atlanta is going to take him. So Jameson Williams' draft position right now is over under 13.5. That would probably likely make him the first wide receiver off the board. Do you touch that? For reference, Drake London's is 10.5. He's still the favorite to go earlier, but we're hearing a lot lately about Williams. Do you? We are. And that's a tie in the question. Do you believe the talk about Williams?
I do kind of believe it. I feel like a team like I could see the Jets or the Falcons doing that because, they're in it for the long haul. They're still trying to get some pieces. I could really see the Jets at 10 doing something like that. Pair them up alongside Elijah Moore. I think it's real nice. And I'm looking at the teams that are drafting up in the first 10. None of them are really crazy contenders, so they could afford to, just kind of hang on to him for the year. I wouldn't bet that. My initial take is no, he's not going to be a top 10 pick. But I saw Peter Schrager tweet his mock yesterday, his second version. He had him at 10 to the Jets. And the more I was thinking about that, the more I kind of really liked it for the Jets, right? To get a nice young weapon with Wilson, you got Elijah, you got Carter. Like, you're starting to build something here, right? So I could see it, but I don't love the bet. I don't love the bet. What do you think?
So let me bring this part in, and then I'll explain why.
Okay.
So Wilson's is 10.5 as well. Wilson and London are both 10.5. For reference, first wide receiver off the board, Wilson's 115, Williams is 160, London is 210. So if you think about that, let's backtrack a little bit. Let's go through this. Let's go through this again, people. 10.5 and 10.5 for London and Wilson. They're both 10.5. However, 115 and 210. There's something that should tell you something.
For the wide receiver off the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the value is with London there, clearly.
Agree. Yeah.
The 10.5 for Wilson has me hesitant about London, but not Williams. I feel like London could be the one that slips because, like, the NFL, yes, copycat, learns from each other. They still make mistakes. And I feel like Wilson's the most complete. I shouldn't say that because London truly is the most complete, unless you want to talk about like that game-breaking speed. I'd say Wilson's the complete safest. He's the one that looks like, if you said of these 4 or 5 wide receivers, who's the least likely to blow up and bust, even if he finishes as wide receiver 20 every single year, he's still a success. I say it's Wilson. So I think it's going to come down to, all right, Wilson's guaranteed to be one of the 2 top receivers. Mm-hmm. And then who's the other one? Is it London or Williams? And I feel like because what the NFL is doing, copycat again, that Williams, even coming off the injury, is going to be the guy. So I lean towards the under on 13.5, and I would hit the over on London, even though I would take that value on London as the first wide receiver. You see where I'm going with all this?
It's all about I do see where you're going. Yeah. I mean, I got it perfectly. I think there's certainly value on London to take that shot. I am seeing him fall a little bit. Again, it is with some of these teams that are just they're just not going to be able to compete this year. So if you're the Falcons or you're the Jets, like you can take that risk. But I do believe that Wilson, to your point, is the safest. Because London's coming off, like, he had a broken ankle, right? He missed some time. Well, so he's fine, but there's a little bit of concerns maybe.
So we're assuming the Jets aren't going to pull the trigger at 4 if they go wide receiver. So we got to at least get, unless the Giants trade out and it's not a quarterback and they trade out for somebody chasing Williams, but probably not going to happen. The earliest we can talk about is Atlanta at 8. So that's Atlanta at 8 is Williams or Wilson. Probably not London. Maybe they go London. But next is the Seahawks. I don't see them doing, like, even if they worried about DK Metcalf, you probably don't do it at 9. So then you mention Wilson at 10, and this is where I'm going with it, because that's 2 wide receivers, whoever it might be, 2. The problem is after that, Washington, first round, Minnesota, maybe if they're thinking about Adam Thielen. But again, first round, maybe. Houston, too many issues for first round. Baltimore, they don't need to. And then we hit your Eagles at 15. So that's where I'm saying is, like, if you don't get it within the top, that 8th and 10th pick, I mean, your Eagles are the ones sitting back there, and they're probably going to take the third of whoever's there. But you see what I'm saying? It's like there's going to be 2. I think there's going to be a third.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you just walked through it. Jacksonville, no. Detroit, no. Houston, no. Jets at 4, no, I agree. Giants are not doing it. Carolina's not doing it. You got the Giants again. I don't think they're doing it. I don't think they're taking any. They don't need to take any wide receivers there. And then you got the Falcons at 8. So Falcons are that wild card team. If they go quarterback there, then we could see those wide receivers. And we could maybe see teams could potentially trade up at that moment. But yeah, the Jets have that. Seattle has that pick at 9, and then the Jets at 10. Washington, like you said, I don't think Seattle does it either. It's Atlanta at 8, Jets at 10, Washington 11, and then down in that next tier with Philly, Saints, even the Chargers. Like, I could see the Chargers taking a wide receiver. I could certainly see that. Another guy for Herbert. Everybody's loading up in that division, and then Philly and the Saints again. So like that inside that range from 15 to 20. My goodness, there's some guys.
I
in there.
lean no on the Chargers because of my feelings for Joshua Palmer. Like I feel like they
I like Palmer too.
as much as it
Yeah,
is.
I
Maybe
agree.
that's just
I
me
agree.
projecting. But
No, I lean that way with you.
here's the last one as we ended up doing a full show. So I get
like
you're welcome, Gay Plus Network, because I have a feeling like we might be able to get on tonight. So if you are watching in Canada, hello. I didn't originally this was supposed to be a short episode to make up for yesterday, but so last one for you. Here, maybe I'm going too down the rabbit hole of conspiracy. It's not conspiracy. Maybe I'm just going too deep with this, Chris. So you tell me. Treylon Burks over under was 23.5. I'm not sold on Burks 100% as a first rounder, obviously, and you can make arguments whether or not he deserves to be there or not. But here's where I'm going down too deep with it, and that's why you bring the clarity to me because I'm somebody who's lower, quote unquote, on Burks than most people. He wasn't invited to the draft. That's like
that's something.
I'm just saying.
That's something. It's something.
And not there wasn't 5 wide receivers. I think there was only 3, but he wasn't one of them.
Right.
And that's just, I think it was Williams, Wilson, and I think London were the only 3, I think, if I remember correctly. You can go look it up. But I know Burks wasn't, and no running back was at all. No running back was invited. No running back, no tight end, and Burks wasn't invited. So 23.5, am I going too crazy by seeing that and being like, maybe the NFL's on the same page and they know a little bit and they don't want to see Burks sitting there for day 2?
Yeah. I think you're onto something. I think people may be watching and listening. It's like, okay, that's you're into it too much, but I think I think it's a thing. I really do. Yeah. If they feel like this guy's going to be taken in the first round, like they're going to invite him there. And that number is so interesting, 23, because Arizona's right there. And you talked about Arizona needing, as one of those teams needing a wide receiver.
I think that's why it's 23.5.
And Vegas traded their pick. You got the Packers there at 22. I think he does get drafted in the first round, but my feeling is it's over that number, 23. I mean,
even if it was the Packers' second pick or one of the 2 Chiefs picks, that's 28, 29,
that's
30.
Still, yeah, for sure. I see Williams, Wilson, London, Olave, those guys all probably before it gets to Arizona. All gone.
And I've seen a lot of people starting to mock Dotson into the end of the first round.
End of the first. I saw him to the Packers at their second pick.
Oh, I saw him to the Chiefs too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
You got to figure the Chiefs. I got to figure the Packers definitely with one of those 2. And then, and then KC. I mean, KC could certainly do it.
All right, before we get out of here, final thing. Mm-hmm. We talked about pre-show. I want you to call it now on the show. Over under Malik Willis 10.5.
I think over. I don't think. Yeah, I know. I think he's gonna fall a little bit. I think I don't know if he's gonna be there at 20 for Pitt, but I just got this weird feeling that Pickett's gonna be the first guy off the board. Carolina's gonna do it. I know. I agree with you. I like Willis the most, especially from a fantasy standpoint. But I will say no. I mean, obviously, it can be completely wrong. The Falcons are the team that I can't figure it out, dude. I can't figure out what the Falcons want to do.
If the Falcons or the Saints trade up, I could see them going Willis. But the thing that only makes sense, and the reason why you say that about Carolina, and maybe even the Saints do it, is because you fool yourself into thinking you're winning now, and who's more NFL ready? You know who is super NFL ready? Josh Rosen. Let's just leave it at that. That was one of his biggest compliments. He's the most NFL ready in that draft class.
Yikes.
If you want to get hockey ready for the rest of the season, go over there. You like that? Nice. FTN, code all in, 20% off. Check out Chris's picks and all that good stuff. And I'll try. Hey, he's been doing a lot of shots on goal. I wish I could bet shots on goal. For some reason, I don't get to. So you're staying away from me sabotaging his picks, fortunately, because I don't get to do that. But make sure you're checking that out. theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals. Next week, because of the draft, Friday, and then Monday, Wednesday after that. So we will be back for all that. Oh, wait, no. Monday, Tuesday, isn't it? Is that the Tuesday? No. When's the Tuesday? No, it's the week after that. Sorry. So Friday, Monday, Wednesday, and then the Tuesday after that with Chris because I'm going to be in D.C. So there you go. Schedule update coming. We'll see you guys later.
Cheers.